You want to stop allowing people to bother you. You want to stop allowing people to trigger your emotions and make you feel a certain way or make you do certain things. So in this video, I'm going to give you a step-by-step plan on how to figure that out. The first step, figure out what they are triggering. You have to figure out what about your shadow are they causing to get disrupted. Now, a lot of times we know about a physical shadow, but we also have a mental shadow. And a mental shadow is usually the flip side of the best things about yourself, I've learned. So when somebody asks you to describe yourself, a lot of the things that we pride ourselves on, we have a shadow for. And a lot of times when people exert those feelings or emotions, we get triggered. For example, me, I am very independent. I'm very hyper independent. And I've always prided myself on that, being able to do for myself and I don't need nobody and all these other things. But then I noticed people who were dependent would trigger me. Like people who always, even when I was younger, I'm talking sometimes 20, 21, sometimes 16, 17, people who always needed help triggered me so bad. Like, why do you need your mom to do this? Why do you need somebody to help you do that? Why do you? Because me, I never asked for help. And even though that wasn't a good thing to do, and I'm learning to get out of it now, that triggered me. And so sometimes you need to realize what about that individual is triggering you, and is it part of your shadow? Because I noticed once I worked on my shadow, it lowered my triggers. So once I stopped being so independent and started depending on people and asking people to help me and trying to just be a regular civilian, human being, if you will, I noticed when people would ask for help or people would need help, it didn't trigger me as much because I realized this was something that I needed to work on, and I realized I had to start doing it too, if that makes any sense. So you have to figure out what about them, what are they doing that's triggering you, and figure out, is it connected to your shadow? Because it's two ways to it, in my opinion. Either it's connected to your shadow or they're being disrespectful. Now, everything someone do is not connected to your shadow. Some people can trigger you because what they say is rude, is disrespectful, but I think it's imperative to differentiate the two, because we always assume that someone is trying to bother us. We always assume that someone is trying to be rude or trying to be disrespectful. But sometimes when you look at your shadow and you ask yourself, really, why does this thing bother me? Like, why is it bothering me and possibly not someone else? Or why is it not even bothering them? Sometimes you can pinpoint it from your shadow. And a lot of times our shadow, like most things, come from our childhood. So usually, like I said, it's the flip side to how would you describe yourself? What are your best traits? What are you known for? There's a shadow to that as well. Number two, if you feel like it's disrespect, it's probably disrespect. Going off of the last thing, I think that's another thing I had to figure out when becoming triggered, because sometimes people would trigger me and I didn't necessarily know why, but it's because they said something disrespectful or rude, but they would say it in a joking manner, or they would try to say it lighthearted. They would try to sugarcoat it. So then it kind of made me question myself. But it's like something about this person saying certain stuff would trigger me. But I'm sitting here like, yeah, but they laughed about it. Like they weren't trying to be rude, or they did this. They weren't. No, if you feel like it's disrespect for one of two reasons. One, because it probably is disrespect. And two, your perception is your reality. So if you perceive it as being disrespectful, it's disrespectful to you. Tell that person, hey, I don't like when you do this. Hey, I don't like this. I don't like that. Because sometimes people just be like, oh, that's just how I talk and that's just how I am. That just will not just around me. Like if something feels disrespectful to you, it's disrespectful to you. Don't allow people to make you feel like, oh, well, I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm not trying. I know you're not trying to, but you did. That's how I feel about this situation. So I think that's another thing I had to realize, because when I was younger, I would let stuff just pass by because I'd be like, am I thinking of it too hard? Am I doing too much? But it's like, that person kept triggering me and it's like, I don't know why, because they're not trying to be rude. But I'm like, to you it's disrespect, so it's disrespect. Don't question it. And going off of that, you have to learn to stand up for yourself, especially in that moment. Because a lot of times too, people trigger us. A lot of times it's a buildup. It's not just one thing or they bother us. It's just one or two things. It's usually a thing of like, they did this and then they did that. And it usually becomes like a big, a big thing. In the beginning, it's very small, like a small snowball rolling down a hill, but then eventually it gets really big. And so to stop that happening in your life, because a lot of people, you might be surrounded by people that have triggered you, but it's because you're surrounded by people that you didn't stand up to. You're surrounded by people who you felt were disrespecting you, but you didn't say nothing. You felt were treating you some way. And so one thing I definitely recommend is, as much as you can, nip it in the bud in that moment. Tell this person, hey, this is how this thing made me feel. That is how this thing made me feel. And I don't like it. And I think sometimes I didn't do that. I can't speak for everybody because I thought it would make me weak. Like, I didn't want to say like that kind of hurt my feelings, or that, even though something did, or that bothered me, because I'm like, maybe I'm making a big deal out of it. But I realized I have to stand up for myself because nobody else is. And at the end of the day, when I get triggered and I feel some way and I'm emotional or I react a certain way, what is everybody gonna do? Oh, Shamia, or I'm gonna have to deal with it by myself. So I realized I have to stand up for myself in these moments. And it is a hard thing to do, especially if you're like non-confrontational or you don't like certain things. But I would try to say stand up for yourself. And if you are a non-confrontational person, it is very hard for you to, you know, do that. Try to start as minute as possible. Possibly send a text message or talk to somebody on the phone. If you know you just feel like every time you try to do it face to face you can't, try to figure out how to do it in some way. But it's very imperative to stand up for yourself, so people first and foremost know they're disrespecting you and you feel disrespected, but also so it doesn't become a repeated cycle. And if necessary, limit your time around these individuals. Like, honestly, limit your time, limit your conversation, your interaction. Depending on your relationship with this person, it might be a little bit harder than others, but that's one thing I had to realize for myself. Like, I have to limit the amount of time I'm around this person. And even if you have to, make up excuses. Oh, I'm busy. Oh, I wanted to do this, but I had to do that. I'm not telling you to lie, but do what you gotta do. Like, if you know you don't want to hang out with your coworkers, your coworkers want to go to happy hour, oh dang, I gotta do so and so. Like, make up something. And eventually, hopefully, they'll be like, dang, she always got something to do, and then they just won't invite you, and then now you'll feel better because it's like, I don't have to hang out with them anymore, or you get what I'm saying? I don't have to interact with this person. But I think that's another thing too. Like, sometimes people are surrounded by people that trigger them, and then they wonder why they're always in a bad mood or they're always feeling down. And it's like, because those people, even being around them, gives you a bad vibe, gives you a bad feeling, it gives you a bad taste in your mouth. But it's like, you don't do anything to separate yourself from them. So I definitely recommend that. Like, start getting into the pattern of trying to remove yourself as much as you can from them. Like I said, depending on the relationship, you can't as much, but I mean, even if it's somebody in your house, possibly try to go in your room a little bit more. Or, you know, if it's a coworker that you know you always see in a break room, maybe take your break at a different time. Like, I know sometimes we feel like, oh, I shouldn't be the one to do this and I shouldn't be the one to do that, but like, it's your life. You get what I'm saying? And sometimes some people are so set in their ways that it's like trying to get them to change even after you have expressed it, stood up for yourself, is just a bit much. Like, they're just not doing it. And instead of getting so frustrated over this person not changing, acknowledge that's who they are and change yourself, because you're the only person that can change. So take yourself out of these situations instead of forcing yourself to go through it again and again and again. Like, we do that like it's a badge of honor. Oh, I can stick up to this person today, or I can deal with this person again and again and again. And it's like, what is the goal? What is the end point? Who are you trying to like impress? Your feelings already got hurt. Like, what are we doing? You know? Another thing that I don't want you guys to see as a weakness: prime yourself before you get around these people. I talk about this in a lot of my videos, but similar to how we put on primer before we do makeup as the foundation to help the makeup go on better, to have better interaction with these people, prime yourself. Tell yourself, hey, this is what I'm gonna say to this person. Or when this person asks me to do this, I'm gonna say this instead. Like, don't wait until like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make up an excuse when she asks me if I can do this. Or can I go here with her? And then you get there and be like, oh, I can't go because I have to feed my fish. And it's like, what? No, prime yourself before you get around these people. You know you wanna limit the interaction. Hey, know what you're gonna say to end the conversation. Like, I had to realize that for myself, because in the beginning I thought it was a weakness thing. Like, no, actually you're the one that's in control of the conversation. Actually, you're the one that's in control of what's gonna happen. Prime yourself. Tell yourself, hey, this is what I'm gonna say and this is what I'm gonna do, and that's gonna help the situation end up better. And it's not you being weak, it's not you being scary, whatever people may try to make you think or say. It's you avoiding situations because this person is already triggering you. This person is already bothering you. If you can stop that by nipping it in the bud any way possible, you're in control of the situation. You're the one that's not in control when they make you pop off. You're the one that's not in control when they hurt your feelings constantly and you keep going through these emotions. You're the one that's not in control when they walk into the room and it's just something in your core that just feels like, oh, it just like you just lose the life out of your body. And so that's what I had to do, like priming myself for interactions with certain people that it's like I can't necessarily avoid them completely. So that's another one to do. And I want you to be honest with yourself. Ask yourself, are you doing too much? I had to ask that for myself as well, because even going back to the shadow work and having to work on yourself, sometimes I noticed that people trigger me, but it's because I was going through things myself, whether it was what they were specifically doing or whether it was a thing of me just going through outside stuff outside of them. And it's like one little thing that somebody did that wasn't up to my standards or whatever the case may be, it made me feel triggered. It made me feel like I don't like this person, I don't like this, are they looking at me somewhere, are they doing this, are they doing this on purpose? And I had to realize a lot of times how I feel is dependent on what I'm going through. And so sometimes people, a lot of times, unless people are doing things to genuinely be mean, most people are not trying to trigger you. Most people have things just from their childhood, their own upbringing, their own life, that's why they do what they do. And like I said, if you don't stand up for yourself, they don't even know they're triggering you. So you could be mad at somebody, and this whole time, if you would have told them how you felt, they would have changed, but that's just all they know. They just talk like that to everybody. They treat everybody like this. They do everybody like that. Some people aren't going to change, but some people would. You will be surprised how many people are going through their own things, or they just don't know because nobody ever stood up to them. Nobody ever told them what they did was wrong. So they didn't even know it was wrong. Like, they're like, this is how I was raised. This is how my mom talked. This is how my sisters talk. I didn't know this offended people. Whole time they've been offending everybody. So that's another thing too, as far as, like I said, going back to sticking up for yourself. But sometimes I was just like, Chamia, you're doing a lot. You're actually exerting your emotions and what you're going to onto other people, and you're assuming low-key everybody to walk around eggshells around you. Like, you don't necessarily think of it like that, but then it's just like you kind of do. You know what I'm saying? Like, when people trigger you when they do certain things, and it's just like they did something possibly that you even did before. Like, they've done something that it wasn't trying to maliciously be mean. It wasn't trying to maliciously, you know, make you feel any way. But it's just, you're already going through things. So that's another thing I had to be aware of, like trying to get all my ducks in a row and working on me, because it's so easy to allow other people to trigger you when you're not focusing on you. And I noticed the more time that I put into me and the more time I pour into trying to grow areas in my life that I want to grow in so many areas, I realized, one, I really stopped caring about a lot of people. Like, now I think it's a little bit harder to trigger me. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I am trigger proof, but it's a little bit harder because I don't know, I just feel like my focus is so sharp right now, my goals are so specific right now, that it's like I don't really allow things that would have literally ruined my day this time last year really be that much. Like, it's just a bump in the road. It's just something that I have to go through. It's not something that I dwell on anymore, because now I feel like I'm in my passion. Now I feel like I'm my purpose. Now I feel like I'm doing something worthwhile. And a lot of times, and not saying you always have to have your passion, your purpose, but a lot of times when you don't feel good about yourself or what you're going through or your situation, it's so easy to reflect that onto others and feel like, oh, these people don't like me. Oh, these people, no, you don't like you. Oh, these people don't respect me. No, you don't respect you. And you see it in your actions, you see it in what you do. And so that's the one thing I had to realize about myself. Not saying people aren't, you know, doing things around me or whatever the case may be, but I had to really be like, no, Chamia, you're really doing too much right now. Like, nobody's doing nothing to be mean to you. Nobody's doing stuff on purpose. You just, anything anybody do is gonna bother you. And then I had to really ask myself that question, do I trigger people? Because it's so easy to be like, oh, these people do this, these people do that. And I'd be like, there's probably stuff that I do that trigger people, bother people, and make people feel some type. And that's just, and unless somebody tell me, I won't know. But I had to think about that for other people. Like, I'm really mad at this person because they did this, or they constantly do this, or they constantly do that. But I never said anything. I just assumed that they should know. It's like somebody telling me something about myself they don't like about me. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that you'd like me doing that for 10 years, 5 years, whatever case may time maybe. So I hope you guys liked that video and enjoyed it. I wanted to talk about this because I think a lot of times we allow other individuals to affect our emotions and make us act out of character and make us act certain ways and just bring out things in us in so many ways, whether it's physically or mentally, and fortunately for some people financially, that they don't really like. And I think it's imperative that you are in control of your emotions, you're in control of your state of mind, you're in control of what you do, and you're not allowing individuals to dictate that and sway you in other ways. And you use the excuse of, oh, they did this and they did that, and it's like, yeah, But who has to deal with the life after that? Who has to deal with the repercussions of that? It's so easy to say what somebody else did, but a lot of times we just repeat that. We become a reflection of them. Somebody do something to us, then we got to do something to them, instead of separating ourselves from that person. And then it's like, what's the difference between you and them? Oh, well, I only did that because they did that. You still did it. Like what? Like you still did something. Somebody can steal from you. If you steal from them and they report it, you're gonna go to jail for stealing. Like, you can't tell the cops, oh, they stole from me first, and they're gonna be like, oh, that X's everything out. No, you're still a stealer. You know, I know that was a crazy example, but it's just like, that's one thing I've learned about life. Like, I have to be in control of my emotions. I have to be in control of how I feel, and, you know, everything that I do to the best of my ability, because life is going to be hard. Life is only going to get harder. I say this all the time. It's only going to be harder. So as much as I can, I try to control myself and how I react and how I act in particular certain situations. And like I said, try to stay away from people that don't make me feel good, because that's what I'm prioritizing. That's what I'm focused on, feeling good. Because I know when I feel my best and I look my best and I am my best, that's when I can give my best and also receive my best. So as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out for new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And also turn on that post notification button if you are making sure you want to see my posts and my videos and different things like that. I know somebody commented and said something like, it keeps unsubscribing her. Can y'all comment below and tell me if that's happening to you guys? She said every time like she goes to one of my videos, it keeps saying she's unsubscribed, but she is subscribed to me and she just has to keep subscribing. So I don't know, is that something I have to email YouTube about or figure it out? I didn't know that that was going on, but if that's happening to you, can you also comment below and tell me that, because I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So thank y'all so much and have a great one.